If you're just starting out as a graphic designer, or if you're thinking about getting into this industry, this video is going to cover everything you need to know to get a lay of the land, from what's the devices, the tools and hardware that I recommend, to which software programs are the industry standards that you need to learn, all the way to some tips on finding your first client. So I'm Annie. I have literally living and breathing graphic design for the last almost 7 years. I studied in design school first for 3 years and then went completely full-time since then. And now I run my own small branding and website studio. And there is so much that I want to share with you. First of all, the tools. Your computer, your laptop is going to be your best friend for the rest of your life. Like, this thing is what I spend 8 to 10 hours with every single day, and it needs to be powerful. So literally how much you can afford, buy the most powerful thing out there, because you're going to be running a lot of programs that's very taxing on your computer's memory and storage. Adobe is not known for being the most optimized when it comes to running on computer software. So it's going to cause a lot of lags if you're using multiple Adobe softwares at the same time. And I would recommend you just invest in either the most powerful Mac you can afford, or Windows, I know is a lot more powerful comparison to price. So just get the best out there. I think focus on the RAM. I heard is really important. I'm not the most tech savvy person, but you can also check out my Mac unboxing on the left. I use the MacBook M4, the MacBook Pro, the 16-inch. The other thing is I highly recommend you to have as big of a screen as possible, especially if you're just using a laptop. If you're thinking about going to design school, you're going to carry this thing everywhere. At home, you can have a monitor to plug it in, so you can have the dual monitor system. You can see I have that screen in the back right there. I never really use it because I'm always on the go. I'm either going to see clients, or I work from cafes, or I work outside. I can't focus at home. And if you're a designer, you have the luxury of probably freelancing also down the line. So I'd say your laptop, the portable one, is the most important. And if you also like illustration, you can also invest in something like an iPad. So I use the iPad Pro. This is from, I think, 2018 or 2019, so it's really lasted, and I use Procreate to illustrate. I don't usually see myself or consider myself as an illustrator, but when you're doing digitally, what you can do is you can source photo references, you can literally lay it out, sketch over the top, and it just is a lot better for people who's not naturally artistic. Speaking of Macs, I have survived the longest time with my MacBook 2019 Intel chip. So if you're just getting started, you don't have to go all the way. I know a MacBook Pro is super pricey, so just get something that is reasonable you can get started with and isn't going to break on you or lag on you or glitch on you within the next 2 years' time. Okay, next let's talk about software. So graphic designers, the entry-level softwares is Adobe Illustrator. Everybody pretty much needs to know this. You need to know a vector-based platform. I know there's a lot of new ones coming out, but Adobe Illustrator is industry standard, especially if you're going to work with print and printers. A lot of people, especially when it comes to packaging, printers might want the original Adobe Illustrator file to tinker with, and printers would usually supply die lines, which is literally the print artwork file that you lay the graphics on top. So if you're creating a box, there's a die line template for that box. They will supply it to you in a format that's compatible with Adobe Illustrator. So that's the first thing that I got started with when I went to design school. The next one is Photoshop. So Photoshop is photo-based. I'm not a pro in this platform whatsoever, but what I do use it for is now with generative AI, you can remove blemishes on photos, you can expand the horizons of photos, make it bigger, you can manipulate things, change things. A lot of times for clients, I zhuzh up their profile photos. So if they have a Teams photo, they usually have just a normal photo taken on an iPhone, and they're in their t-shirt or something at home. I can literally use the generative AI to circle that image and change their top to a suit, change this t-shirt to a suit, and it miraculously does so. So Photoshop is really good in that aspect. I use it more of a supportive software instead of my main thing. My main thing is Adobe XD. If you've never heard of it, it's very similar to Adobe Illustrator, but it's more for people who design websites and for apps. So UI designers, they use it all the time, and I live and breathe this software. It's very similar to Figma. In fact, if you haven't been too ingrained in the Adobe universe, I would encourage you to actually use Figma instead of XD, because Figma is becoming the industry standard. It very much is already, and it's much easier for collaboration. But I started using XD like 4 years ago, and it's just so easy. It's like, it just comes so naturally to me. And you can also integrate it with Photoshop. So if I'm editing a photo inside of Adobe XD, I can just right click the image and say edit in Photoshop and manipulate it and save it, and it automatically reflects on XD. And I create everything in there. I create social media posts in there. I create all my designs, the first iteration in there. I create posters and stuff in there. Of course, web designs, presentations, all that stuff I create in there first, because I'm just so speedy at like moving things around in there. And then what happens is, if you have to send something to print, I would kind of copy and paste it into Adobe Illustrator, optimize it a little bit more, because copy and pasting, it kind of glitches up something sometimes, even between the Adobe apps, which is annoying, but that's okay. So I design everything first in XD, and then I would recreate it for print in Illustrator if need be. Another software that is really critical now in the industry, especially if you're working directly with clients, is Canva. So I know a lot of pro designers, they think Canva is like the, we don't want to play with Canva, it's like the generic, mediocre, beginner baby software, but I love it, and clients love it. So if you want to work directly with clients, it is such a value add because it is so easy for them. But I never design first in Canva. I would design in Adobe first, in XD first, because I can move around super fast, I can create layouts, I can build grids, I can make sure everything looks super professional. And then what I do is I would then import it and kind of reconfigure, redesign it in Canva, which takes a little bit more time, but it's super, super duper worth it. Especially you can share it as a Canva template link. So the client can literally click that link, duplicate it to their own Canva account, and play around with it that way. You can also sell Canva templates if you want just a side income as a graphic designer. Super good. You can sell on Etsy, you can start your own Shopify store. I have an Etsy store as well, so, and you do get some sales here and there, even though I'm not taking it super seriously right now. But Canva is one that I would highly recommend, and don't look down on it. Clients really love it. You can also build brand kits in there, which they adore. Okay, next, let's talk about whether or not you should go to design school. I know that is a huge thing, especially if you're just starting out considering. I don't think it is mandatory whatsoever. I think the value you'll get out of it is more so the experience of having a cohort, of knowing other friends who enjoy design, because in my high school I didn't know anyone else who was super like into this space. So in uni I made a lot of friends. We'd click instantly because we were all obsessed with colors and fonts, and it just feels at home. But technically, like technical skill wise, you don't need to go to a design school. In fact, right now there's a lot of really good courses, free courses on YouTube, or Skillshare is a really good place to get started. Just pay a monthly subscription, or you can just dig out those really good paid premium courses. That is literally how I got started doing everything I know. So I specialize in branding and website, and I have bought dozens of courses in total on like all the topics. So I bought branding courses, I bought web design courses, I bought Figma courses, I bought Webflow courses. Everything you want to learn, you can buy a really good course taught by an industry expert on that exact topic. So I'd highly recommend you to dive into that. If you have the extra budget, if you want that uni experience, then go to a design school. The next thing is looking at career prospects. So you don't need a design degree, because when you go out to look for jobs in the graphic design industry, if you're going to a studio or an agency, they will literally not ask you, well, they might ask you if you went to design school, but what is more important is your portfolio. Your portfolio of work means everything. If they see that you can action and create something that's on par with their standards, that aligns with what they want to see in a designer working for them, with their style, their professionalism, their attention to detail, that is most important. Because last year I hired my first full-time graphic designer, And when I was doing interviews, I literally did not care about where they went to school. It made no difference. It was how they presented their portfolio, how they presented their resume. Are they looking at the little details? Does everything align? Do fonts make sense together? And do they have like strategy behind all the work that they do? This is what people look out for. So I'd say if you want to get straight into it, just buy courses, practice. Okay, finally is looking at how do you actually get your foot in the door and get paid. So of course you can just go the conventional route of putting out your resume, delivering it to agencies and studios. That's what I did in the beginning, but I didn't love it. I wanted more freedom and flexibility. If you are in a creative industry, you probably want that as well. So I guess the dream of most graphic designers is to work for themselves, aka working for clients. So how do you get your first client? Number one, I would suggest is to just start doing what's called mock projects, just concept works. You need to decide on which subsector of graphic design you want to work in. There is so many. There's branding, which is logo design, brand identity design. It's kind of a cheat because branding starts with logos and colors and defining like all the font hierarchy and everything, but then it trickles into kind of, you can go into social media, you can start doing packaging, you can do collateral, like marketing collateral, like posters or business cards, like all of these things. But branding is a big sector and it's a very well paid sector as well if you're targeting the right clients. So that's one thing. You can also go into packaging. Packaging is something that I do like, but is very, very technical. Let me show you something. If you go into packaging, then you'll need something like this. It's a Pantone swatch book. So essentially what you need to do if you are going to packaging is you need to think about colors, you think about print, color matching. So there's something where you design something on the screen, but if you print it, you need to get the color codes right. You need to make sure the color doesn't come out distorted. You need to make sure the inks match well to the texture of the paper. So it's very, very technical. And that if you love technical stuff, if you love seeing something go from digital to physical product, then packaging is a really good one for you. Another one is social media. So there's a lot of social media managers out there, but not many of them are good at design. And social media is something that corporates are hiring for, and they're desperate for good designers. So that's also another really good one to go down if you're into like marketing, advertising, those kind of things. And then there's also website, which is another one of my favorites. Website, I think, is important for every designer to know a little bit about because you need a portfolio at the end of the day. And when it comes to software for portfolios, I only use 2 platforms. Webflow, number 1, very technical, really good. Or number 2, Framer, the best one for designers. So if you're just getting started, I recommend going to Framer straight away. Another web platform that I use is Shopify. So if you want to work with e-commerce clients, you need to know Shopify. So these are the 3 website ones. And if you want to go into website, then definitely you need to learn Figma or Adobe XD. That is essential, that is key. And then there's also app design. So app design, I started going into web design because I wanted to build like a really professional portfolio. And then my branding clients, after I deliver the brand, they're like, great, now we need a website, can you do it? So I got into web design. But as like a kind of a progression from that is app design or UI design. So user interface, it can be for like app UI or web UI. You can naturally progress into app UI, which is also a very highly paid sector because people who build apps, they usually got the budget for it. So recently, the last 2 or 3 years ago, I started my first app project for a client. They're very fulfilling, but a lot of details. Like if you look at my Adobe XD and Figma boards, it is literally like hundreds and hundreds of screens that you have to design for. If you're somebody who is really like attentive to small details, because you gotta like literally make one button in like 10 sizes and 20 variations, like different states, hover states, click press states, or success states, error states, like all of those things. Very, very minute details. If you're someone who's interested in that, I think app and UI design would be great for you. So kind of look into which area you want to go in. And coming back to how to get your first client is after you know which area you want to go into, just create mock projects for that sector. And what I would say is also, I would recommend you to find an ideal client. So for example, if you really like hotels, like luxury boutique lifestyle resorts, find one that you really like and you can check their website. If their website looks mediocre, which most, you'll be surprised. Like most websites in luxury spaces even look really bad. That's why websites are a really good space to go into. So if you see one that you know it's good, you know they're a dream client, and hopefully they have some budget as well, because what you're going to do is you're going to literally create a brand or like a website, a mock website, or whatever it is, like packaging. You can find a product that you really love in your local department store and rebrand it in your local shopping center. Like if you have a chocolate brand that you love that the packaging looks pretty bad, you can design it for them. And I would encourage you to even reach out to them and say, hey, I'm getting started in this industry. I'm doing a little trial project on creating like coffee chocolate packaging, and I want to redesign it for you. If you want to, feel free to give me some input. We can jump on a call, and like you can do it free of charge, and then you can kind of transition them into a paying client. If they're happy with their work, you can develop it with them, and it actually becomes like an actual real life project. If you're too nervous, just do it as a trial project. You'll have more freedom in that sense. Top tip is to go to Pinterest. I know it's a pretty like everybody goes on Pinterest, everything looks the same, but no, it really doesn't. Find really good designs on Pinterest or Behance or Dribble. These 3 platforms are really good for you to explore different design styles and use that to source some inspiration and create a professional piece of work, and then lay it out in a portfolio format. Use mockups is another super good tip. Mockups are usually Photoshop files, and they can look really good. You just switch out like a screen inside. So for example, like iPhone mockups or like the laptop mockups or packaging mockups. Use those to showcase your design. It's going to make day and night difference. I invest a lot into paid mockups because I think they really showcase your brand and your work in the best light possible. If you are curious about more about how to make money in graphic design, how to actually like monetize this passion, now it's not going to be passion anymore. Now you're professional. Now it's going to be a skill set that you can monetize. You can check out my masterclass called the 10K Masterclass on the left right here, where I will teach you as a creative how you can turn your passion, your skill set into a highly paid job. I wouldn't say job, into a highly paid set of expertise that clients are willing to pay you for. And I'll pull back the curtains and show you exactly how I do it. And this is what this channel is for. So if you don't come here for graphic design, or if you want to have more business kind of related content, if you want to kind of pick my brain on that regards, then there's a lot of videos on this channel. If you enjoyed this video, the algorithm thinks that you're going to love this one on the left right here. So let's see if they're accurate. We also have an audio version called the Brand Creator Podcast. If you want to check that out. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.